Hi everyone and welcome back or welcome to Stitches Past 5. My name is Vera and today I want to share some of my recent creations, what I'm currently working on, and what I'm going to be working on soon. I think it's that time of year where it's it's a weird time of year because it's kind of still the beginning of summer but also still a bit cold. At least here we haven't really had a proper summer. So it's do I do summer knitting but then it'll only be done in August, but then I can't really wear it that much anymore because then it's already September and then it's almost winter again. Or do I just do autumn, fall, winter knitting because I'll be able to wear it a whole bunch next season. I think in the last few weeks I've kind of done a mix of both. I've just kind of been creating what I wanted to create, some things that have been on my list for a really long time that I've finally gotten around to, some things that I literally saw one day and then the next day I started the project. But it's been, yeah, just pretty busy with work, so I haven't really had that much time to make too much stuff. So I think my last check-in was a few months ago, so everything here is stuff that I've made since I guess it was February and now we're just entering July, so it's been almost 5-6 months. But yeah, I thought I would share my recent projects and stuff that I'm currently working on. I am someone who likes to work one thing at a time, so what's on my needles or what's on my hooks that I'll share is not too much. But yeah, let's just get started. Okay, so one of the things that I made a few months ago now that I haven't really been able to wear because I made it a little bit too late is this hat. So the pattern is the Lighthouse Beanie and it is by Kutevakika. I have her book and this is one of her books patterns that is called, the book is called Knit This and the pattern is called the Lighthouse Beanie. This one I made on 4.5mm needles and I used Drops Air yarn, which is a mix of 7% wool, I think 67% alpaca, and then 28%, I hope that adds up, polyamide. My gauge I actually kept because I have a bunch of this yarn. I also just did a yarn review, which I think I'll post after this video, of this Drops Air Drops Air yarn. And what I do when I have a lot of one yarn or when I know I'm gonna use yarn again, I make my swatch, which is here, and then I put a little safety pin writing what the yarn is and how many stitches, what millimeter needle I'm using, and so on and so forth. It's just easy for me to reference it and also touch it, see if it's gonna work for whatever project I want to make next. So here with 4.5mm needles, I was able to meet a gauge of 20 times 30 stitches. And the pattern actually called for 18 times 29, so 18, and I had 20, so I knew that, yeah, I had just a few too many stitches, but then I was able to compensate that by just casting on a few more. I did the maths and then it worked out just fine. The size of this works out just fine. It sits on this here. And what is really unique about this beanie is that it's actually worked in a tube. So essentially you cast on on one side, I guess it was this one, and then you do all your increases. And I also modified this pattern because I think the pattern called for just casting on the entire amount of stitches that you need and not doing increases. I figured I don't like it when it's so bunched up at the top, so I actually did a few increases, and then I was able to hit the circumference that I needed here. Yeah, then you work that and then you start on the ribbing. Again, I adjusted the size of this and then the size of the ribbing because I felt like that would be a good idea. I need to get better at not adjusting patterns all the time because I usually end up being oh, I should have just followed it. I think in this case it was really a matter of 1 or 2 centimeters, so it doesn't make a big difference. Yeah, and then you work the rib, which is just 1 by 1 ribbing, and that makes this right here. You can see the difference really nicely here. And then you work until the rest, and then you do decreases, and then you finish it off, and then you end up with this fun tube, which you then kind of have to fold into itself. There we go. And then it creates this really cool hat. It's super thick, so I think when I wear this in the winter, I like intended on wearing this because we had booked a trip to Riga, and then I checked the weather and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna freeze. So the whole trip I was like making this, but of course I didn't finish it before the trip. So it would have been nice to have because I did freeze and it was really cold. But I think for the winter this would be it's gonna be so nice and warm. And I really love like how it's constructed, because that means here you have like double fabric, but here you have quadruple fabric because you like flip it up. Yeah, it's pretty, it's pretty like neatly. Kind of looks ridiculous now wearing this inside, but I'm super excited to wear this in the winter, and I already know that I'm gonna be super nice and warm in this, nice and cozy. At first I was like, oh, I don't know if I love it, I think I'm gonna frog it, but I'm gonna wait and see if I wear it, and if I wear it, I'm not gonna frog it. If I don't wear it, I am gonna frog it and then make the rim a bit wider. This is exactly like how it's shown in the pattern. It's shown with a really thin rim. I just like it when the rim is really thick and your ears are super nice and cozy. And also looks wise, that's just kind of like what I'm used to for me. So this is a little bit out of the comfort zone. It might sound ridiculous now that I'm saying it out loud, but we'll see. I have no issue frogging anything. Like if I don't wear something, I'll frog it because I want to wear everything that I make, because otherwise why did I make it? Yeah, so this one I knitted pretty quickly. I think we left for this holiday in like the beginning of May, and then we came back 5 days later, and then it was done like right when we came back, which is kind of ironic because I made it for that holiday. But anyways, Riga was beautiful, would recommend, but it was freezing cold. It was like 5 to 10 degrees with wind, and it was, oh, I was freezing. But yeah, so this is the Lighthouse Beanie by Kutavakika, made with Drops Air yarn, and really excited to wear it. Now it's obviously too hot because it's summer, but there we go. It is what it is with this summer period of knitting, I guess. Okay, so speaking of Riga, we were there and I was like, oh, how cool would it be to find a yarn shop here so I could take home some yarn and make something fun out of it. And that's exactly what we did. I found this yarn shop, which I think I made like a reel out of it. I'll try to put it in here so hopefully you can get an idea. So we're in this yarn shop, and it was super overwhelming. I kind of wanted to leave at first because everything was in these like huge rolls, like just massive, and I was like, I don't know how do I touch this, how do I figure out a gauge, how do I figure out what it's made out of. Nothing had any labels, so it was just a bit overwhelming. And then I was like, oh, let's just leave, you know. And then my boyfriend was like, no, you should like look and like figure it out and like talk to the person. And I was a bit shy when it comes to these things, but then I went in and went to have a look, and they had these like machine knitted swatches. And yeah, long story short, I bought quite a lot of yarn. This is actually the remainder of it. So literally everything came in these massive spools. So it also just makes it super hard to like understand how much you're buying. But what they do, they have these spools that they actually wind up for you. So you say, I want, I don't know, 500 grams of this yarn, and they wind it up for you, and then they put a sticker on the inside right here. Hopefully it's focusing. That lets you, that says what it is. So this one is, my Latvian is not great, but I think it's merino, cashmere, viscose, and polyamide. So 56% merino, 28% cashmere, and the rest is 6% viscose, 10% polyamide. And 230 meters run, sorry, 100 grams are 230 meters. Yeah, so I knew I was picking this one to make a sweater for my partner, for my boyfriend, because I've wanted to make him just like a thick, sturdy woolen sweater for a while. And this was like literally double the size because I've made the sweater now. So this is the sweater. I am so excited about this one, and I'm so excited for when he can wear it. I hope you can see it. It's just a really basic sweater. This one is actually the Northland Sweater by Petite Knit, with this wool. So I can't tell you like who the maker or what the company is, because it's just this like unique yarn store. It's called Woolly in Riga, Latvia. No idea like if this yarn is actually like by a company or something, but I was able to meet gauge exactly. So I was able to meet 17 stitches by 22 rows on a 10 by 10 gauge swatch, and I used 4.5mm needles to make this sweater. Yeah, so this Northland Sweater by Petite Knit is I really enjoyed making the pattern. It was a really, really good pattern. So essentially it's a top-down sweater. You start using circular needles to shape the neckline, and then you work back and forward to do the short rows on the back. I did that on circular needles that I was using for the entire project anyways. Yeah, and then you essentially work your way down the body. It asked for a 1x1 ribbing at the bottom, but I tried that and it was a very, how do you say, like spread out 1x1 ribbing, kind of like here, but I think for the neckline it works. So for the bottom I undid it and then I did twisted rib knitting, which is what it is down here, and I'm really happy with it. Because it actually like kind of pulls the sweater in at the bottom. If you can kind of see it, it like pulls it together a little bit, and that's exactly how he wanted it. He gave me a sweater that is his favorite, that he wears all the time, and this pattern actually matched that sweater perfectly. It was amazing. Like I kept comparing what I was making here just size wise to that sweater he already had, and he wears a whole bunch. And it, could you not, like centimeter by centimeter as I was making it, it fit perfectly. Like it was exactly the same shape and exactly the same dimension. So that was a really nice plus making this. I think Petite is she's very popular for a reason, and I think it's just because the patterns are easy to follow, they're nice. Yeah, I think for me there was not too much new about this one, but that didn't make it less fun to work on. Like it worked up relatively quickly, and I'm just super happy with the result. I mean, the color is also just so fun. It's like this greenish gray, and just to know that this was like a really fun adventure on our holiday together in Riga, brought back literally this huge piece of yarn, which by the way I've used just over 450 grams of, although in the shop I asked the lady, I explained to her, I showed him my boyfriend, I was like, I want to make a sweater for him. I literally, like, he was standing there so she was able to see his size dimensions, and she said, yeah, probably around 800-900 grams. So I thought, okay, that's not gonna be a light sweater because that's a lot. And she did admit that she was like not great at estimating for men. She usually estimates yarn amounts for women, but she said 800-900 grams, me thinking, okay, I'm here now, how on earth am I gonna get this yarn if I'm here in Austria, like Latvia, Austria? I don't think those ship to each other that seamlessly. So I went on the safe side, got 900 grams, massive roll, literally in my hand luggage, brought it back, made this, used only 450 grams. So whether he likes it or not, I'm gonna make a sweater for myself, and we're gonna be matching. But yeah, so this is what's left of that yarn. I had no idea. Literally there was a point in making this, I was like, I don't know if the yarn's gonna be enough, because I had 2 sleeves to make and it was decreasing quite quickly, but I guess I'm just not used to these massive rolls. But yeah, on the whole, super happy with the pattern, super happy with the end result. Love the color. Oh, just so excited for it to get colder. I shouldn't say that because it just hasn't even gotten warm yet, but yeah. So the price of this yarn was 87 euros, I believe, or was it around 90 euros for 900 grams. I used 450, so I think it came down to around about, say, 45 euros for this sweater. And there is something here, but I leave this in so he knows this is the back, so don't, it's just an end. It's fine. Yeah, so this one came down to around about 45 euros, which I was actually surprised at because that's pretty affordable for a really thick wool sweater. I thought really fun, because at first I was really like, whoa, I'm spending 90 euros on yarn that I don't even know is gonna last me the whole sweater. But yeah, so turned out pretty well. Okay, so the next project has a similar story in that I was about to leave that yarn shop and I was like, okay, no, I've always wanted to try to make something with linen, never really had the chance, so I'm gonna ask if she has linen. I'm already friends with her at this point because we've been figuring out sizing and everything for a while, and I'm already buying, like, I think the yarn for that sweater was like 87 euros, 900 grams. So it's actually well priced, but just quite a lot of money, right? You're spending. And then I was like, oh, do you have something linen? Because I would love to try to knit in linen. She showed me what she had. I really enjoyed this blue color. So I was like, okay, I want to make a tank top, because me thinking linen is for summer, I'll just make you something. Tank top is really, it was a super thin yarn. I'll actually show you what I've left in a second, because it's not much, so there's no point showing me an empty spool now. But I went back and forth a lot of what to make with it, and I ended up on this. So I deviated quite a lot from the tank top I told her. This is the Elisabeth Blouse by Petite Knit. Once again, went for Petite Knit pattern. This time it was truly one of those, like, I was looking at so many patterns, so many tank tops, so many different ones. I actually started this as a tank top. I wanted to make something with really beautiful lace ribbing kind of at the bottom that turns up into a tank top. I think the pattern was by Önling. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly. I worked like 5 centimeters of the lace at the bottom, and it was just not turning out. And I was like, I don't know if this is the linen yarn or if it's just me who doesn't know how to work the lace, or I don't know what it was. Tried blocking it, tried everything to, like, it didn't even look looked nothing like the patterns. I was like, this is not for this yarn. Undid the whole thing, literally like a week of work, just unraveled it because it took me a while to figure it out. It was super thin yarn. And then I said, okay, I wanna make something sleek, something simple, but still something that's really effective. And I think that's exactly what this is. So the pattern is called the Elisabeth Blouse by Petite Knit. And I did have to make quite a few adjustments in terms of gauge. So this was my gauge swatch here, and I actually had 25 stitches on 10 centimeters, and this pattern called for 23. And I know that 2 stitches, like for this, I also had 2 stitch difference, but that's easy. It's a hat, it's round. I can add a few and it'll be fine. I knew that for something like this, that wasn't gonna work, because I would end up with something way smaller than I need it to be if I have 25 stitches and the pattern calls for 23. So I did a lot of gauge maths. I did a lot of figuring things out. I didn't want to use a bigger needle because you can see it's already like kind of see-through. So I didn't want to size up needles, but I really wanted to make this pattern. Figured it out, and I basically upped a size. So normally I would have made size M for myself according to my dimensions, but I actually went up and made a size L, and that was the correct decision. It just meant that yeah, my positive ease was the same, except that like my centimeter measurements wouldn't really match up with those in the pattern, but I knew that that was fine. So yeah, I made this blouse. It's worked in double knitting at the top. So essentially the way you work it is, maybe you can see it better against the white wall. Actually, yeah, here you can see it. So this collar here, it's worked top down. So you cast on. Petite Knit is great in that they have these videos. They are, I think, in Danish, so I don't really understand it, but at least I can like look at it and figure something out. But you cast on here, and then you essentially work on your, I was able to work it on circular needles. I know the pattern calls for like 2 sets of circular needles, but I don't know, I just figured out a way to work it on 1 set. Don't ask me how, I couldn't tell you now, but yeah, so then essentially you work top down, and it's literally like it's double knitting, right? So you work front and back. You do that for 10 centimeters, and then you knit the double ribbing together to make it into single ribbing, and then you start so then you do some short rows at the back here, and then you start. It was actually a lot of short rows. It was so many short rows because it's such thin yarn. I think this is classified for like fingering weight. I used a 3.5mm needles, which was already big for this, but it was a lot of short rows. I was like, I need these to end because I need something else to do. Yeah, and then essentially you pick up a bunch of stitches, or sorry, you do the raglan pickups, and then you work yourself down. This part I struggled with. I did have to like cut it off and remake it without the attached thing. I literally just like made a double knitting and like sewed it on, because with linen it's not very forgiving, so you really see like if a stitch isn't even, you see that, and I think that's mostly fine, but I think this is just kind of where your eyes go on this piece. So yeah, I wanted it to look neat, so I cut it off. Really risky because I have no idea how I was going to reattach it, but it worked out thankfully. Yeah, and then you make the end. It's single ribbing, which I again did twisted at the bottom, and then you add the sleeves, and this the pattern calls for long sleeves, but because in Riga I told this lady that I wanted to make a tank top, and she recommended 300 grams if I want to hold a double the yarn, because single it was like super thin. So I knew, I was like, I don't know how far I'm gonna get with these sleeves, and already starting this I was like, I don't know if I'll even get anywhere, but I was willing to take the risk, knowing that I probably can't really order the yarn, and I'm actually super happy with how far the yarn was able to get me my sleeves. I think had I had more yarn, I would have probably made it long sleeves, but I really love it short sleeves now, and I think it's just gonna be a really fun summer blouse that I wear. The bind-off was a funky one. It was like an Icelandic bind-off, I think. I'd never done that before, and it says that it's like stretchy online, but like this has literally zero stretch. I don't know if that's because of my linen yarn choice, which doesn't stretch by nature. But yeah, so let me show you how much yarn I have left, because this was stressful. Okay, so literally this is all that I have left. I wound it onto one spool now because I actually wanted to weigh how much one spool weighs. Yeah, she recommended I need 300 grams for a tank top, which she was perfectly spot on with this one. But I didn't make a tank top. I added a lot more fabric here and the double knitting, so I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna need more. But this is what's left. She had it on 2 spools. I tried to put in a picture. I think I took a picture of it, so that I could like double knit it, because they put it on the spools for you. So that was super nice, because otherwise I would have had to wind it. And yeah, so you can imagine that this was a little bit stressful. It's really not a lot, but it worked out. Another thing was the linen. So like I said, I had never worked anything in 100% linen before, and it definitely took some getting used to. So I worked linen on wooden needles, and I don't know if it was the wood, but it just didn't glide the way like normal wool would glide, and that was often not the nicest experience. And it also wasn't really spun. See it here, that is literally just like the strings kind of with each other. I don't know if you can see it. So it was not the easiest, especially on the decreases, increases, like oof. Yeah, and it just wasn't really gliding, and then it ended up so stiff, and I was like, oh no, I'm never gonna want to wear it. I did my research. I was like, is this ever gonna get soft? The answer the internet gave me was like, yes it will. So I was like, okay. And I was so skeptical, but it turned out super fun, and I'm so glad that I persevered through all of that, because otherwise I would not have this really fun blouse now. Yeah, it was hard to knit evenly as well. I would say usually I am a pretty even knitter, but with this one it was difficult. I was also not able to knit it that fast. Like with wool, I would say I'm pretty fast. Like I just like I just do my thing. But this one, it wasn't gliding, so it wasn't really even, and I was like, oh, I don't know if blocking will fix this. I'd say blocking fixed most of it, but there's definitely still some like uneven parts, but that's fine. I mean, it's fine. I mean, usually linen crinkles anyways when you wear it like as a normal garment, so totally fine. Yeah, the last thing I will say with this one is that it is machine washable, so it's really exciting. I even read that when you're blocking linen, you're meant to actually like hit it a bunch and like actually put it in the machine, so it can like get hit against the sides of the machine to I guess soften it, or I guess, I don't know. I didn't like machine wash it, thank God, because the color bled so much when I was blocking this. I'll never be putting this in the machine with anything else. But yeah, essentially, long story short, this was an experience. It was a struggle. It was a fun project. I learned a bunch of new techniques. Would recommend the pattern. It's not the easiest pattern, I will say. So if you're a beginner, maybe work a few other ones first before you delve into this one. But so happy with it. Pretty proud of myself that I made this. The price of this came to around about, it was actually really cheap because the yarn was just, it was 300 grams of linen. And I think it was around about 15, 16 euros for this whole thing, which is amazing. I think it was just a really like affordable yarn shop that I found there that I wasn't even realizing at the time because I spent so much money there. But yeah, very happy with how affordable this one came out. Okay, another project that I just want to mention here that I don't have here anymore is a cardigan that I made for my grandma. I'll put in some pictures. I have seen this cardigan. I mean, I visit my grandma semi-regularly, so maybe at least once a month I'd say I'm there. We live in different countries, so it's not that easy, but I try. Every time I'm there, I'm like, Grandma, there's a cardigan that's like half knit. What are you gonna do with it? And she's like, oh no, I'm not gonna knit anymore. So she's like, well, you should knit it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna knit it. But all it was balls of yarn and like some panels that I figured was gonna make this cardigan. She had started this thing, could you not, literally like 30, 40 years ago, like, and just never touched it again because I guess she fell out of her knitting habits. So I was sitting there, I was like, oh my goodness, how on earth am I gonna put this thing together? Because I had no idea. And it was also one of those really fluffy yarns that you just had no idea where the stitches were. You couldn't count anything. There was like funky ribbing and then some buttonholes and yeah. But I was able to finish it and give it back to my grandma as a finished piece. It was like a full wool cardigan, pretty scratchy if you ask me, but it made her super happy and she wears it on top of things anyways. But that one definitely also was quite a good challenge in terms of there is no pattern, there is no indications of what yarn you're using, what needle size you should be using, nothing, just go for it kind of. But the end result, the positive thing with the fluffy yarn was that you didn't really see anything anyways, so I guess it didn't matter. But I'm really happy with the end result, and she has worn it a few times, and I guess she'll wear it a few times more, or hopefully a bunch of times more in the winter. So just something that I quickly wanted to mention because it was a project that I worked on, but couldn't tell you yarn, couldn't tell you literally anything, so yeah. Okay, so to finish my finished project portion of this, I just want to show a few crochet pieces that I have been working on that are more like side pieces. They were pretty quick. The first one, I made these two cute little teddy bears for a friend. He asked me to make 2 bears for him, so yeah, I finished one of these in one night, so 2 nights in total. They're plushy yarn. I haven't worked in plushy yarn in so long, so it was really fun. Like, I'm happy that he asked me to make them because I was able to use my plushy yarn again. And yeah, so 2 teddy bears. Then a project that was kind of a pain to make in many ways is this. So I crocheted this super sturdy basket bag that I've mentioned in another video that I use to keep my sheet music for my guitar in. It's made out of Drops Cotton Light, but that's only like the dark blue and the white. So the purple is actually a recycled bedsheet. And it just took forever and a half to cut the whole thing apart. To pair it with the cotton yarn was fine, but it just made it really difficult to get through the stitches. It was also one of those projects that like I had made first and I was not happy with it because of the shape of it. Undid the whole thing, remade it. Now I'm super happy with it because I think it's just really beautiful, and like this was my old bedsheet. Like, how fun is that? But yeah, now it like kind of lives in my living room. Also fun because like the color scheme was already in my house, so fun to recycle it and make it into something new in my house. Took okay amount of time. I had to take lots of breaks because just getting the hook through all these holes with this really thick and not smooth at all cut up bedsheet was kind of a pain. But I'm super happy with how even it turned out, because I also was like not that easy judging like how thick I should cut it. But yeah, here's my basket, bag, crocheted recycled bed sheet. I don't know what you want to call it. And then another project that I finished a few months ago that I wanted to share is this fun baby blanket. So cute. As you can see, there is a green stripe in here because I ran out of the brown yarn, but that's fine. I think it's part of the fun. I mean, it's a baby blanket, so yeah, this one's made out of cotton, drops cotton light yarn as well. So yeah, I think we'll be gifting this to the person who's having a baby. So exciting times. And yeah, it was just a relaxing project because once you do the chevron, like once you have it counted, all you do is continue it. And then I put a border around it just because, yeah, I wanted the ends to be a little bit more stable. And yeah, I'm really happy with this. I love the colors. It's not really a color combination I would gravitate towards, just the grays and browns. But I thought, you know what, let's just go for it, and love the output. So now let's get to the what I'm currently working on, which I will say is not much at all. It's just one project because I did just finish the knit blouse and I was working on that quite a lot, and I didn't want to start too many other things because I knew I wanted to finish this one first. And I'm usually, I have to say, pretty good at that I don't have that many works in progress. Just because I get satisfaction of finishing something. So I try to do that before I finish something else. But currently I am working on this, which I want to make into a summer top. So this is the front panel, and it's going to be like a, I can kind of show you, like a tank top kind. I mean, right now it's more of a crop top. And then I made a back panel. I'm also like filming my whole process with this, so hopefully that will go up. Well, maybe not so soon because it's not going to be done that quickly. But essentially I'm making these cute little granny squares. It is a scrap yarn project because I've had this yarn for like almost a year now, half a year. And yeah, it's cotton mercerized, so it's just nice yarn. It's thinner. I think it's like 8/4 Hobie cotton yarn. And yeah, I'm so far really loving the contrast. The squares I actually thought about myself, so I guess I am the designer of the pattern of these squares. And yeah, I'm currently trying to figure out, I mean, obviously I don't have a pattern for this because I'm making it kind of as I go along, but I'm trying to figure out like how I want to do the straps, and I'm not sure because I can either do a granny square strap, just like one square go up. I could do half a square go up. I could do like, I don't know, just like crocheted something go up. I'm not sure. If you have any recommendations, like this is gonna be like the front like this, if you can think of something that like, I don't know, I've kind of like put it aside for a few days just because I don't know what I want to do. But if you have an idea, please let me know in the comments, because I'm a bit stuck, I will admit. Like I need inspiration because I love the colors and I love the pattern. It's just, how do I continue kind of at this point? Yeah, so that is my work in progress. Granted, I just finished the 2 teddy bears yesterday, so I will start something tonight. And what I will start tonight is the frit, I guess, I don't know, top by Önling. So this is the one that I just mentioned I tried making with the linen yarn, but that didn't work out. And I'm actually gonna make this with the Drops alpaca yarn. This one I bought in Norway when I was living there, and it was also one of those things that I used for a project. I didn't love it. I put it aside for like a year. Then I unraveled it and I made like a few hats out of these because I had so much of this yarn. So I made like a few hats out of it. But I still have a few skeins left, so I figured I would make this top with it. It is way closer to the recommended yarn on the pattern, so I think the mistake I made was just trying to use linen for a woolen top is probably not ideal when there is lace involved. So yeah, excited to use this yarn for it. I might need to double it. I need to make a gauge swatch still, so TBD, but that's gonna be my next project. Super exciting because yeah, there's still hopefully quite a bit of summer left, so hopefully I'll be able to wear it. We do get hot summer days here, but most of the summers here, or most summer days here, are windy and not too hot, I would say. We do live in the mountains, so the weather changes a lot, so I'm not really worried about making a woolen top for summer. I mean, I also used to live in the tropics, and there that would be impossible. So yeah, excited to be able to kind of venture out of what I used to wear and wear something woolen in the summer as well. Yeah, then that's my one wearable that I want to make next. And then the other item that's currently on my list to make, that I'm gonna make very soon. I mean, my list of things to make is long, but these are like the two items that I'm gonna make very soon, is a crochet plastic bag. So that one should be exciting. I found this really cool pattern online. It is a Korean pattern. I actually included it in my bags to make in one of my recent videos, like cool patterns, cool free patterns that I found. So this one is a Korean pattern, so we'll see how that one goes, because obviously I don't speak Korean. But yeah, I'm excited because it's just fun, it looks different, like I just want to try making a crochet plastic bag. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to in my knitting, and I guess a little bit in my crocheting. Yeah, I hope maybe you gained a little bit of inspiration from this video. I understand that two of the items were pretty heavy, like winter items, but yeah, we live in the mountains, you never really know, you know, winter can come as soon as October here, and that's already in like 3 months now. But yeah, I hope maybe you were inspired by some of the things that I've currently been working on. And yeah, let me know below what you're currently working on. I'd love to hear. And thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.